All right, so today we will be doing a little bit more with fractions. We'll be simplifying fractions. We'll be writing decimals as fractions, writing fractions as decimals, and comparing fractions and decimals. So this is everything that we have done this last week, and there will be another video for you to watch on Monday. All right, how do we simplify the fractions? Our first step, we are going to factor out the numerator. We know 16 is our numerator, so we'll factor out 16. I know 2 times 8 is 16. 2 is our prime number, so we can circle it. We can still factor out 8 into 2 and 4. 2 is a prime number, so we'll circle it. 4 is not a prime number, so we can still factor it out. What can we factor 4 out into? 2 times 2. Now that we have 16 all factored out, we know it's labeled or written as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. How did I get that? The 4 2's are the prime factorization for 16. And now let's factor out the denominator. So we're going to factor out 40. What are 2 factors that make 40? 2 times 20 makes 40. 2 is a prime number, so we'll circle it. We can still factor out 20. 2 times what is equal to 20? 2 times 10. 2 is a prime number, so we circled it again. But 10 is not, so we've got to factor 10 out. 2 times 5 is equal to 10. And both 2 and 5 are prime numbers. So now that we have our denominator all factored out, we can write it out. 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. There we get our first 2 steps. Now we need to cross out any common factors. When we cross out the any common factors, let's see there's a 2 on top, 2 on bottom, 2 on top, 2 on bottom, 2 on top, 2 on bottom. And there's a 2 and a 5 left. Can't cross those out, they're not common. Step 4, multiply any leftover numbers. 2 times nothing, 5 times nothing, so there's nothing for us to multiply. So we're going to rewrite it in its simplest form, which is 2 bits. So you can see here I color-coded our steps. First step was factor out the numerator, then factor out the denominator, and cross out any common factors, and lastly, rewrite it in the simplest form. Alrighty, so now we're going to write decimals as a fraction in the simplest form. How do we do that? One thing we always can remember, we're going to plug our number into the place value chart. So there's our 6 to the left of the decimal, and I see 7 and 3. So how do we write this into a fraction? Well, everything to the left of the decimal will be our whole number. So 6 is going to be our whole number. And then we're going to have some sort of fraction. And everything to the right of our decimal point is going to be our numerator. So we know that 73 will be our numerator. But now we just need to figure out what will be our denominator, or what will go on the bottom of the fraction. One way we can do that is we look at our place value chart. What does the last digit fall in? It falls in the hundredths block. Since it falls in the hundredths place value, it tells us that our denominator will be 100. So 6.73 in a fraction form is 6 and 73/100ths. So we got the tenths, then the hundredths, so that tells us our denominator will be 100. Everything to the right of the decimal is our numerator, and everything to the left is our whole number. All right, so now we're going to write each fraction as a decimal. And these ones involve some long division. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to set up our division problem. We're going to write our division bracket. Then we see the denominator goes on the outside of the division bracket. So 6 will go out here. And then the numerator goes on the inside. So we'll put a 1. Now we need to divide. We're going to ask ourselves, how many times does 6 go into 1? No, it doesn't work. 0 times. Oh boy, now what do? We're at kind of a stopping point. What we are going to do is we are going to add a decimal and a 0. Because that does not change our inside number at all. You can see it is still 1. 1.0 and 1 are the same number. So copy your decimal point up to your answer spot. We already know 6 goes into 1 0 times. How many times does 6 go into, how many times does 6 go into 10? 6 goes into 10 one time without going over. 6 times 1 is 6. And subtract them. This is just long division now. 10 minus 6 is 4. Now another kind of stopping point. 6 can't go into 4. So I'm going to add one more 0. So that still doesn't change the number on the inside. And we're going to drop it down. How many times does 6 go into 40 without going over? 6 times. And 6 times 6 is 36. Subtract them. 40 minus 36 is 4. Ooh. No, 6 can't go into 4 again, and I just had that. And I had one more 0. Drop it down. How many times does 6 go into 40? 6 times. Wait. I feel like this might just keep going forever. Because every time I do that, we're just going to have 4 left over. And then we're going to add a 0 and drop it down and get 40. So how do we show that? That this will never be ending, it'll just keep going on? With our line. So it's 0.166 repeating. So it's basically just long division. You have to follow your steps. And remember, you can add a decimal point and some zeros because it does not change the inside number. A couple more questions here, and then we'll continue on Monday. We're going to compare these fractions and then write less than, greater than, or equal to. So first step we need to do is get our common denominator. And how do we get our common denominators? We multiply each fraction's numerator and denominator by the opposite fraction's denominator. So what that means is I'm going to multiply 5/8 by the opposite fraction's denominator, which is 6. So I'm going to multiply the 5 by 6 and the 8 by 6. And then for the other fraction, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to multiply it by the opposite fraction's denominator, which is 8. And now we multiply. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 8 is 48. 5 times 8 is 40. 6 times 8 is 48. Now that they have common denominators, we can visually compare and see which one's bigger. What's bigger, 30 over 48 or 40 over 48? You're right, 40 over 48 is bigger. Let's try one more of these. 3/4 and 9/12. Remember, we got to get common denominators. We do that by multiplying each fraction by the opposite fraction's denominator. So 3/4 will get multiplied by 12. And then 9/12 will get multiplied by the 4, because that's the opposite fraction's denominator. 12 times 3, we would get 36. 12 times 4, we would get 48. 9 times 4, we would get 36. 12 times 4, we already know that is 48. Which one's bigger? Neither. They are equal to. All right, so we will continue on Monday with a little bit more practice problems to make sure everybody's checking Schoology.